The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining the October National Farm to School Month, National Farm to School Network Farm to Early Care and Education webinar. We're just going to give it a moment to allow people to join the webinar, and then we'll get started. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the National Farm to School Network Farm to Early Care and Education quarterly webinar. We'll just give it a few more seconds to allow people to join in, and then we'll get started. All right. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the October National Farm to School Network Farm to Early Care and Education webinar. Today, we're going to be exploring Head Start and Farm to Early Care and Education, a natural alignment. Before we get started, a few housekeeping reminders. This webinar will be recorded today and archived for future viewing. It will be housed in the National Farm to School Network resource database for future access. And you'll also receive a link in the follow-up email so you can access this recording and share it through your networks as well. In that follow-up email, you'll also receive links to any of the resources and reports that we discuss or share today. All attendees are in listen-only mode. You do have a question panel in your control panel. So as you do have questions for our panelists, and as those questions come up for you, please feel free to enter those into the question box, and we'll have time reserved at the end for question and answer. This webinar is part of our quarterly webinar series, Farm to Early Care and Education quarterly webinars. So please mark your calendars for our next webinar in January on January 9th at the same time. Again, you'll have an opportunity to register for that webinar in that follow-up email. My name is Lacey Stevens. I'm the Farm to Early Care and Education Associate with the National Farm to School Network, and I'll be your host and moderator for today's webinar. We're very pleased to have you and hope you enjoy today's presentation. So today we'll get started with some updates from the National Farm to School Network, including new and updated resources that we're excited to share with you. And then we'll jump into the topic of the day, Head Start and Farm to Early Care and Education. I'll start by introducing you to our newest National Farm to School Network resource, Growing Head Start Success with Farm to Early Care and Education. And then we'll hear from two Head Start programs, STEP Inc. and Inspire Development Centers, about how they have put a Farm to ECE into action to support their Head Start success. This is a great month to be joining in to talk about farm to school and farm to early care and education. October happens to be one of our favorite months around here, and that's because it's National Farm to School Month. National Farm to School Month was designated by Congress in 2010, and it is a time to celebrate the connections that are happening all over the country between children and local food. It's also a great time to expand your farm to school activity and also to introduce people to farm to school for the first time. So if this is your first introduction to farm to school and farm to early care and education, we welcome you. The great thing about National Farm to School Month is that everyone, from our littlest eaters to teachers to food service workers, farmers, policymakers, and community members can all get involved and celebrate. And I know we're almost halfway through the month, but it is certainly not too late to get involved and start to plan your celebrations. Our 2017 campaign aims to inspire, inform, and encourage everyone to be able to take action for Farm to School in their communities and nationally. We'll be sharing blogs throughout the month. We have already a number posted, and we'll continue to post those blogs and stories of Farm to School and ECE innovation and success. We'll also be encouraging folks to learn more about the movement through webinars like this one, tweet chats, one of which is taking place this Thursday, and lots of social media activity. Excuse me. We'll also ask you to tell us what you're doing to take action this October. You'll have the opportunity to sign our Take Action Pledge. And when you sign that pledge, you'll be entered to win our sweepstakes to win a Project Learning Garden Kit from the Clapton Planet Foundation. So all of these opportunities and more can be found at farmtoschool.org/month. There you'll find abundant resources that you can download for free, from posters to stickers and bookmarks and coloring sheets. You'll also find a calendar of activities happening from state to state, so you can identify what activities might be going on from your state that you can join in on. It's also not too late to become an outreach partner. Becoming an outreach partner will allow you to get emails and help and resources to help you spread the word. So there's lots of opportunities for you to take part and be a leader in your own community around Farm to School and Farm to Early Care and Education. We also have abundant activities for early care and education, specifically to start celebrating Farm to School Month by scheduling a field trip, serving local foods, spending time in a garden, utilizing the coloring stickers, posters, and coloring pages that we have available for free download on our website, and then making sure you're sharing this far and wide through social media, through photos, pitching your story to local media. This is a time to really introduce the opportunities that Farm to School and Farm to Early Care and Education can offer to your community. So we look forward to hearing what your activities are happening this October for Farm to School Month. We'd also like to tell you about a new report from the National Farm to School Network that we're very excited to share with you. We just released this Economic Impacts of Farm to School Case Studies and Assessment Tools report, which shares new resources around a survey and case study approach to looking at the economic impacts of Farm to School. You can also join us to learn more about this resource and this report in a webinar tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern. And in your email follow-up, you'll receive a link to register for this webinar, or you can find that at farmtoschool.org. Other exciting upcoming events, we hope that you've marked your calendar for the 2018 National Farm to Cafeteria Conference. It will take place in Cincinnati, Ohio, April 25th to 27th of next year. We're now accepting workshop and poster proposals, so if you're interested in presenting and sharing your work at this conference, please check out farmtoschool.org/conference to submit your proposal. We will, as in previous years, have a Farm to Early Care and Education track, so we're looking for great, high-quality Farm to Early Care and Education presentations. So moving into our topic of the day, Head Start in Farm to Early Care and Education. Before I introduce you to our guest speakers, I'm very pleased to share with you our newest Farm to ECE resource, Growing Head Start Success with Farm to Early Care and Education. As many of you know, Head Start offers vital, high-quality early care and education opportunities to low-income families across the country. These high-quality early care and education opportunities offered through Head Start and Early Head Start program have lasting, long-term benefits for children and their families. This new resource from the National Farm to School Network aims to highlight how Farm to Early Care and Education elements, implemented individually or in combination, can address multiple standards and domains from the Head Start Program Performance Standards and the Early Learning Outcomes Framework. For those of you unfamiliar with the Head Start Program Performance Standards, these newly revised in 2016 are in the process of implementation. This set of standards and expectations reinforces Head Start's approach around offering quality educational opportunities, addressing the whole child and the needs of the whole child, as well as supporting and engaging families and communities. While these standards are at the heart of Head Start programs, some practitioners may need additional support to help achieve these as they are newer and moving into new opportunities to implement. The Head Start Early Learning Outcomes Framework is a detailed outline of what young children should know and be able to do to succeed in school. This framework outlines and describes skills, behaviors, and knowledge that programs must foster in all children to support success going into school and later in life. You can see here how this is outlined within the framework, identifying and can be used to identify appropriate curriculums, learning materials, and activity choices, and help inform teaching practices to engage parents in children's learning. And as you see in this slide, the framework is outlined in different domains and then identifies subdomains within each of those domains, as well as goals, and then walking through the developmental progression and indicators demonstrating children's success or achievement of these goals. So those are the components outlined within this new resource from the Head Start side. Now looking at the Farm to Early Care and Education side. And keeping in mind that when we're talking about farm to school or farm to early care and education, we're talking about this broad spectrum of activities that support connections communities have with fresh, healthy food and local food producers, and the many different ways to engage children in learning about food and agriculture. So while we don't have a one defined program of farm to early care and education, it's this whole spectrum of activities that fits within these core elements that empower children and their families to make informed food choices while strengthening the local economy and contributing to vibrant communities. As we see in this new resource, we'll identify how these individual program elements, as well as using these different core elements of farm to school in combination, can support Head Start program performance success and achievement of early learning standards. When we think about farm to school for any age group, from our littlest eaters all the way up into college years, we think about it as a triple win, with kids winning, offering more opportunities to have healthier foods and exposures to healthier foods and understanding where their food's coming from. Farmers winning by shortening supply chains and keeping more of the dollar share with farmers, and communities winning with local investments going back into communities and children taking their learnings home with them and influencing families' health habits. When we think about reaching children at the very earliest ages in early care and education settings, we have additional and compounding benefits that, as you'll probably notice, really align with the priorities of early care and education, and especially with the priorities and philosophies of Head Start that we saw through those program performance standards. These benefits and emphasis areas include the family and community engagement piece, enhanced educational experiences with those hands-on learning opportunities, and of course, health and wellness for children, families, and providers. So now let's start to look at where these pieces align, specifically looking at the program performance standards and farm to early care and education. Food access and local food resources can and should be a strong component of the community assessment required in the program performance standards. This allows for a foundation of utilizing local food opportunities to support family engagement, family support services, and community partnerships and coordination. The multifaceted approach and benefits of farm to early care and education allow for adoption of farm to ECE into this variety of early Head Start and Head Start settings, and offer enhancements of both the learning environment and child nutrition at the same time. These benefits can also carry over to staff, as we've discussed, as Farm to ECE professional development opportunities are not only engaging and support important knowledge around topics like nutrition and food safety, but they also promote staff wellness and healthy habits and modeling opportunities for staff. Farm to ECE can even support administrative standards, including developing programmatic goals in partnership with a variety of stakeholders and meeting required non-federal match requirements. In this new resource, you can see in this slide an example of how we've laid out these program performance standards in alignment with these variety of farm to early care and education initiatives and activities. So one way to use this resource, if a Head Start program is working on their community-wide strategic planning and needs assessment that you see as a part of this program performance standard in Part 1302, They can look into the Growing Head Start Success resource and identify at least 3 farm to early care and education focused ways to help meet this standard. One, focused in the procurement piece, might be to identify resources for local access to food in the community. Another, in the education core element piece, might be to identify opportunities to use food-based education to address family and child nutrition knowledge needs. And finally, in the gardening realm, an opportunity arises to identify community organizations with resources to support on-site and community gardens as an approach to increasing healthy food access. In this new resource, you'll find dozens of these program performance standards and coordinating farm to early care and education activities. Additionally, many of these activities are not only defined in text, but they also contain links that you can, with a click of a button, Head Start practitioners can easily have everything at their fingertips to implement these new ideas and farm to early care and education activities. In the next section of the Growing Head Start Success resource, we take a similar approach to outlining the domains, subdomains, and goals of the Head Start Early Learning Framework and aligning those with specific farm to early care and education activities. You can see here we've even attempted to align the color coordination to help create that flow and connection between the two resources. So in this section, the activities and domains are grouped by farm to early care and education core element. So here we have an example of the gardening section of the resource. We have separate sections for gardening, local permit, procurement, and local food and agriculture education. You can see here in this example, we've identified the color-coded domains and then identified the subdomains for both the infant toddler groups, and then we have a separate section for the preschool age group. And then you can see how we've aligned on the left side the goals underneath each of those subdomains, and then on the right side the specific age-appropriate farm to early care and education activity that helps meet that goal. So in this example, you can see how a Head Start practitioner might utilize this resource. Perhaps a teacher is seeking ways to support phonological awareness, a subdomain of the language and communication domain for her preschool age students. This teacher can find the phonological awareness subdomain in the Growing Head Start Success resource and then identify the specific farm to early care and education activities that align with the goals underneath that subdomain. So in this example, the teacher may choose to read with her students the Eating the Rainbow program. And you can see here within this example that this is not only listed, but also linked. So the teacher can click that button and be linked directly to that poem along with activities associated with that poem. So by choosing a farm to early care and education related poem and activity, the teacher is not only supporting appropriate development within the domains as outlined in this example, but also promoting food knowledge, exposure, and acceptance. In addition to the 2 alignment sections that we've discussed in depth here, the Growing Head Start Success resource also offers a section demonstrating farm to early care and education actions, and we'll be hearing directly from 2 of our examples and exemplary programs highlighted in that section. It also offers extensive farm to early care and education book lists and a comprehensive list of resources and references to support implementation of farm to early care and education activities. So now I'm going to turn it over to our guest speakers to hear about how they are implementing farm to early care and education in their Head Start programs. First, we'll hear from Abby Eschbach, and she is the Wellness and Nutrition Initiative Coordinator for STEP Inc. Upon graduating college, Abby's career began over 12 years ago in the kitchen, working in farm-to-table restaurants in Philadelphia. As her love for quality ingredients grew, so did her passion to provide foods for those with little access. After relocating to Williamsport and having a child of her own, Abby began working with STEP. She provides nutritional education programs to the Head Start children and families, the seniors within STEP Center for Healthy Aging, and through a partnership with the Central Pennsylvania Food Bank. You'll also see Abby at the Williamsport Growers Market each Saturday working for Walnut Run Farm. After that, we'll hear from Tina Bishop. Tina has been the lead nutrition specialist at Inspire Development Centers for over 21 years. She holds a Bachelor's of Science degree in Food Science and Nutrition. Tina has fond memories of being taught the benefits of planting a very large garden when she was growing up. She and her husband were both raised on farms and have continued this tradition with their children, planting a garden every year on their own little farm. This is one of the reasons the National Farm to School initiative is so very close to Tina's heart. Everyone can agree that growing your own food or buying locally tastes so much better, Tina says. In her off time, Tina not only likes being outdoors in her yard, but also enjoys boating, camping, snowmobiling, and exploring national parks with her family. So with that, I will turn it over to Abby.
Hi, good afternoon or good day to everybody. My name is Abby Eschbach with STEP, and we're located in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. And as a community action agency, we oversee the Head Start and early Head Start classrooms for Lycoming County and Clinton County in Pennsylvania. Next slide. So as you can see here, we do have a far reach. We really have the whole gamut of demographics within our regions. Williamsport is considered more of an urban area, whereas some of the outlying towns are extremely rural. But as you can see, our numbers, we reach quite a few families, which is wonderful. Next slide. So our Farm to Head Start initiative is patterned after the National Farm to School movement. We've taken a lot of pieces from various programs that are already existing, and we've sort of given our own twist to things as well. All of our programs are aligned with the Head Start framework, as Lacey was speaking of before. And so each program that we roll out is lined up with different qualities to reach the children in different ways, whether it's math or social skills, things like that. And all the various programs can be easily tied into existing curriculums. So that's really to highlight the ease for the teachers. They can take what they want from it and implement it into their classroom as they see fit, which we have found works best for our particular classrooms. Next slide. To make the largest reach to our students and their families, we approach it with the 3 program components, as mentioned before: growing, cooking, and eating. And we feel this well-rounded approach really makes the most impact because, you know, kids can grow a carrot, for example, and if they grow the carrot and then they cook it themselves, then they're more likely to eat it in the end. If you just hand them a carrot and they, for some reason, think that they don't like the carrot, they're much less likely to eat it in that regard. But if you let them be a part of that whole process and you see that whole, you know, see it make full circle, then it makes a much bigger impact with each child. Next slide. Next slide, please. So this is a timeline to give everyone an idea of how we started. Our particular program now is called Harvest of the Month, and we started with individual workshops within two specific classrooms. So we chose those classrooms because the teachers were very interested. They wanted us in there twice a week for 8 weeks, and then we did each classroom in the fall and then again in the spring, and then we'd go to a different classroom the following season. And we felt that this was, number one, it was a huge commitment for the teachers, and because we had to be sort of worked into their schedule and their day-to-day. And then beyond that, we weren't reaching the vast amount of kids that we would like to. We would like to make a bigger reach. So we started doing fall festivals and winter festivals to, we invited the public in as well as the Head Start families. We'd feed them Healthy Harvest or, you know, seasonal ingredients for dinner. it was sort of small bites, but all together created a full dinner. So it was an evening program, and we've done that for the past 3 years now. It'll be 3 years this season. And we realized what big interest there was out there, with the parents included. So that really started the Harvest of the Month program to become sort of more of a general approach to farm to school. And what we did was we created a curriculum that teachers could pick and choose different activities that could work within their classroom, as well as take-home activities and things like that, which I'll show you more in detail later on. And then in addition to that, during the development of the whole program, we worked with our local college, Lycoming University, and we had their early education students work on different curriculums with us. And so they came up with a lot of the activity ideas and corresponded it to the various curriculum needs for Head Start classrooms. So that was a wonderful partnership, and it helped us think outside the box. The students had a really fresh take on everything, and that was a lot of fun in developing the program. And now we have, you know, every fall we have our fall harvest. Every winter we do our winter harvest program. Event. So that's a one-time event each season. And then the Harvest of the Month is an ongoing program, 12 months out of the year actually, because our early Head Start classrooms go throughout the summer. Next slide. So this is just a quick rundown of our fall harvest event. It's an intergenerational experience because we oversee Office of the Aging as well. We invite them to come in and volunteer with the kids. The children get to paint pumpkins. We talk about where the pumpkins grow and sort of create a pumpkin patch for them, and then they pick their pumpkin and they can paint it. And the seniors sort of help with the various activities. There's sensory activities. There are book drives. This year we're doing a make your own snack activity where basically they add a quarter cup of different, they add different measurements of ingredients for trail mix. So in the end, they have a bag of trail mix, but along the way they add a different number of scoops of each ingredient, things like that. And we usually have about 200 people turn out, which is really wonderful. It's all the families are invited along with their relatives, so it's really been a huge success and sort of brings it all together with the Harvest of the Month program. Next slide. So this is another branch of our program. We do the home visiting, and each week the families get together in what we call play groups. And once a month I will go and we make a healthy snack together. And these ingredients come from local farms for the most part. And we talk to the parents how to approach their kids with nutrition and how to have fun with food. And then we let the kids kind of get their hands in there and help us cook our snack for that day. It might be a smoothie one time. Last time we did cinnamon toast with and made a yogurt dip, and you cut the toast into sticks and you dip it. So it's fun for the kids, and they can use it with their little hands, which is fun. And we just talk about general nutrition and various approaches to that. Next slide. And also this is our Winter Fest. So again, it's just like our Fall Harvest Festival, except in the next season. And it's just a great way to bring the community together, gives parents an outlet for their kids to come and just have a great time and celebrate the season. And it also is an opportunity for us to reach the families to talk about farm to school and how important it is to eat fresh produce and introduce them to different resources to source out those local ingredients. Next slide. So finally, to bring it all around, this is our Harvest of the Month program. So again, this is ongoing through 12 months of the year. It's funded by a mini grant from the Food Trust that we received. And as I said before, we developed it in partnership with the Lycoming College's teacher program. And the students just jumped right on this. They had a great time with it, and it gave us so many more ideas than we could have come up with on our own. It just really gave us a fresh look at everything. Each month features a different vegetable or fruit, and living in Pennsylvania, we don't have access to fresh produce year-round necessarily. So, you know, it's not all seasonal specific, but we do try to make it as much as possible. And our biggest goal is to teach the health benefits and introduce new ingredients to each child and just let them see, you know, the various wonderful produce that's out there, how it's grown, and what they can do with it. And next slide, please. So this is an idea of what the teacher has to work with. So this first page on the left gives you, here obviously we're focusing on beets. It gives you just general facts about beets that they can share with the children, 2 different recipes to make with the children if they so desire, and also resources in our area of where to find those beets. Okay, so, and then on the right, this is an activity that we suggested. It's a really great book. And these books or any of the CDs that we mentioned throughout Harvest of the Month for music or different resources like that, we make sure that we have available or that we know where the teacher can find them if needed, whether it be the local library or what have you. Next slide. So again, here's another book about beets, or, you know, maybe the book's not all about beets, but here the letter B featured beets, so it brings it into learning the alphabet, which is wonderful, and other various activities. So this one on the right includes a music component, which is really fun, and they do music and movement. Next slide. And it goes on to go further into the recipes that are mentioned, or sometimes, such as turnips, because there are all different colored turnips and things like that, and beets included. Sometimes we just have them, you know, slice the piece of fruit or the vegetable and let them try it on their own, sort of explore a piece of it. We don't want to waste food, of course, so we do make sure that they take a polite bite and just take that one little bite. If they really don't like it, that's okay. But we ask that they just take that one polite bite, and usually it turns out pretty positively. So that's great. Next slide, please. So this is our newsletter that goes out monthly. I send this out the first week of each month. And I sort of focused on the beets theme here, but we have it broken down each month into take a look. So that's giving the teacher some vocabulary on the vegetable or the fruit. So not all teachers are real passionate about produce, maybe as much as some of us are. But so this gives them some material to work from. And then we go to the snack ideas and this month's activities. And again, these are just really simple bullets to give them ideas, and then they can turn to that workbook that I was referring to last slide to give them more details. Next slide. Again, this is the turnips newsletter, breaks it down into take a look, snack ideas, activities, and We also ask them for their suggestions too. We want the teachers to get involved, share their ideas with us. They might be doing something in their classroom that we had no idea, and that always keeps our brains working and renewing the newsletters and the workbooks. Next slide. So I'm going to page through a couple of these pictures just to give you an idea of what we've done. This is a take a look example. We cut a pepper in half, and we talked about the various parts of the pepper. The kids got to see it, smell it, touch it, and then eventually we made a snack, with the peppers we were discussing. Next slide. This is take a look as well. We talked about the different colors and the benefits of eating the rainbow. And so we color-coded different bins, and they got to put and each bin was labeled with a benefit of that color. So, green is heart healthy, and so they paired up each vegetable or fruit in the appropriate bin. Next slide. A snack idea. So, we made a homemade dressing here to talk about different balances, and we talked about ratios, so oil to vinegar, and different flavors and how to describe them. So, vinegar's acidic and oil's fatty tasting. Things taste different, and we talk about those vocabulary items just to have them really think about what they're tasting and not just look at the person next to them and copy how they're reacting to the food. We've found that the more you talk about the different ideas and have them really think about what they're tasting, what's the texture, things like that. It really makes for really fun snack time and makes it more of a learning experience. Next slide. Here again, we're talking about tomatoes, and we got to explore different tomatoes, the colors, the shapes, the sizes. So that was really fun. Next slide. Again, we're making salad. This was all from the same workshop, actually, which was really fun. And we talked about the different parts of the plant. So the tomatoes being the fruit, the leaves here, the arugula being, different part of the plant. And we put in sprouts, and we shredded carrot as well to show the root of the plant. And we talked about the different aspects of each part. Next slide. Excuse me. And here we made a homemade pasta salad. Again, we made our own vinaigrette for the pasta salad. We added in various colors. This was a Eat the Rainbow pasta salad. We used whole wheat pasta and made sure all the colors of the rainbow were represented with different vegetables within the pasta salad. And we added a little cheese at the end to make the kids love it. But they liked it very much, which was great. Next slide. And we implement different characters. Sometimes we talk about Henry the Hungry Monster. That was something we started out with. And they really related to the different characters that we introduced. They would ask how they were doing, and they talked about how healthy they are because they're eating healthy foods when they're hungry and things like that. Next slide. So again, this is an idea, like I said, with eating the rainbow. This is more learning about your food groups. Next slide. We did some coloring activities, and that's something we always make available throughout the months, especially with the Head Start kids as opposed to early Head Start. They love coloring activities or drawing their own gardens, drawing different vegetables and fruits. Next slide. Here she grew her own garden. Next slide. And this went along with the parts of the plant, the salad that we made. So we were talking about edible flowers, different leaves, fruits, things like that. Next slide. One classroom made their own farm, and we took this idea, and a number of classrooms now have their own farm where the kids can go and switch around their produce. They can, each classroom sort of did their own twist on it, which was really cool to see. So, and it also helps with teacher involvement to help them, you know, give it their own identity. Like maybe the kids really like bees and butterflies, you can do that and turn it into like a pollinator farm, things like that. Next slide. And this is our growing aspect. So we plant seeds for herbs or different flowers. And this is based on different guests that we have come in. So we might have a beekeeper, so we plant pollinator seeds or pollinator friendly plant seeds and things like that. Next slide. These are the herbs that we were growing. Next slide. And we have featured guests, as I mentioned before. This is Laura, and she is the owner-operator of Walnut Run Farm out here in Williamsport. And this shocked the kids because she was a female farmer. They just pictured, especially in Pennsylvania, you picture a big burly Amish man. So this was a shock for them. And Lacey, if you want to just sort of page through here. So we had a beekeeper. We partnered with WIC at a farmer's market. You can keep paging through. And they get harvest dollars. And so stop here, Lacey. So again, we partnered with WIC at the farmer's market, our growers market there, and just to get a further reach between the WIC and the Head Start families. And we couldn't have done it without all the community help that we've had. So next slide. And finally, I've sort of touched on all of this, but with your teachers in mind and the parents as well, just make sure things are approachable, start simple, and give them a few ideas that they can start with and take into their classroom, and they can make it what they want and sort of give it their own identity as the classroom grows. Next slide. And there, my information's on the bottom there. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to contact me. And thank you so much.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Abby. It's so exciting to see the initiatives that you've started and all the great resources that you've created. The Harvest of the Month resource that Abby mentioned is available in the National Farm to School Network resource database, and we'll send that link out along with the follow-up email so you can take a closer look at that curriculum. And as you do have questions for Abby, please feel free to enter those. And then as you have questions for Tina, who will be sharing her work with us shortly, please enter those in the question box, and we will have time for question and answer for all our panelists at the end. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Tina.
Good afternoon. My name is Tina Bischoff. I'm with Inspire. You can go ahead and click the next slide, Lacey, please. At Inspire here, we are in Washington State. We have 28 sites over the state of Washington. We are in 9 counties. We serve over 4,000 children. We have a Head Start, a Migrant Head Start program, which is our largest program. We have Early Head Start, and we have, in the state of Washington, we have a state kind of mimicked Head Start program that's called ECAP. So we have children year-round also, which is just really great for tending to all of our gardens. We started, Inspire started with an idea that we got contacted from a woman named Julia Smith from Michigan State University, and had the option of applying for a Kellogg's grant. And she contacted me that she would come out with this grant and do some training on the farm to preschool, or farm to school actually. We took her up on it. She came out to the state of Washington, and we had training with her for our Inspire staff, which included teachers and cooks and family service workers, our center managers, and the education staff that I work in my office with. And then we also included our policy council parents. We brought them in for policy council. They had meetings over a weekend, and she came in and talked to several of our different policy parents. And she just led us into this excitement. I mean, in the state of Washington here, we're very rural. All of our centers are in rural areas. And so we have farms all around us. We're able to grow immense amounts of produce. And we thought, wow, how can we get this off the ground? So during her training, we got really excited and we're like, where are we going to start? There's so much to do. How are we going to get this done? Where do you find money? It was just a lot of excitement. So we decided to sit down and make some goals about where we could get started. So we had some ideas of starting small. So some of our sites, we decided that we could do some garden pots, and some of our centers have a lot of area for us to be able to do garden beds, but everything takes some money. So we had a lot of parents who were excited about, you know, making donations and farmers in the area. So what we decided to finally start with was, like I had stated, a lot of the areas we have centers in are very rural and have a lot of different farms and fresh produce. So we decided to start by serving fresh items on our menus that were easily attainable on our parents, and got really excited about this because a lot of them work in agriculture and work on farms and had access to be able to donate to us, along with the farmers, some local produce to use on our menus. So we have everything from fresh berries to apples, apricots, peaches, corn, melons. It was really exciting. Plus with Head Start, it's great for in-kind also. So all these donations came in. At times at some of our sites in the summer, we have truckloads of watermelons that will come into some of our sites from farmers. So it's not only one of our centers benefits, but actually several of the centers will benefit from donations like these. We can go ahead and flip the slide. So our next idea is to get gardens going. We can grow a wide variety of produce, like I said, in the area here in Washington State. So we wanted gardens. Okay, how are we going to get there? What are we going to do? So we decided that we needed to go out maybe in our community, see what kind of donations we could gather, what kind of partners are out there that we could partner with possibly. So we decided, a coworker and I, who actually he is in the maintenance department, we buy a lot of supplies. You know, you have to fix your sites and Head Start, do repairs. And so we went to our local Lowe's, we do some business with, and him and I introduced ourselves. And we were very fortunate. We walked in and we were escorted up to HR. We were a little anxious about that. And they said, you know, we have this really great grant. We have store grants. We'd like to get involved in our communities. You can apply for these grants through us, and then we'll see what happens. So they said it was due within the next 2 days. So we were really nervous, but we decided let's apply for this. And 2 days later, the store employees voted, and we were awarded a local Hometown Heroes grant. So one of our sites was able to get a dream garden, and it really is a dream garden. It has picket fence, and as you can see in the picture here, it shows the Hometown Heroes, the signage. We had volunteers from the store. That's part of the grant, is they come in from stores and they volunteer their time. And then we had some parents that were really excited from that center that came to volunteer, some community volunteers. And also the really great thing about this grant kind of made connections for us with others in the community. So most states have extension agencies. I think actually all states have extension agencies. So the great thing about this was our Washington State University Extension Master Gardeners, they called and they wanted to be a part of this. And we had already had contact with them when Julie had came to do her training. We thought, how can we network? so they already had a heads up about us. But when we were awarded this Hometown Heroes grant, we had 15 from the extension that came out and worked alongside of us to put in this garden, along with the store employees and our parents. It was a great day. So also later on, through the extension, there was opportunities, excuse me, for other grants that came along. So we've applied for some different grants in the community to build garden beds. Everything that came with a lot of these grants is the soil comes along with them, sometimes seeds. We get a variety of our parents, as you can see in the middle picture on the bottom. Those are some garden beds from a grant that we applied for. And in that picture, you can see in that picture there, we have parents that come in and volunteer along with the master gardeners and some of our staff from our sites also. And in some of them, you can even see some of our children are actually helping. The other picture to the left, you can see this is an early Head Start, one of our programs, and we have a master gardener standing there, and they're learning to do container gardening. So she brought in the containers that were provided by a grant and brought in some plants. So there they have some pepper plants and tomato plants, and the early Head Start program there was able to take those home and be able to have a container garden on their patio of their home. So a lot of these days at the centers, when these we've been awarded so far at 9 of our sites these nice garden beds that come in, and it is amazing when you say it's for kids and gardening that you have just volunteers that just come from everywhere. And what usually we think will take 2-3 days usually takes one good day, not even a full day. So the excitement is there and it's very productive. We go to the next slide. Like I said, we're a big agriculture state here in Washington, so a lot of our families, actually, the children we serve, work in agriculture or a job related to agriculture. So on our lesson plans, we've always had nutrition, education activities for the children and tasting parties, and we decided on our lesson plans that we wanted to do gardening just to give that experience to kids. So some of our centers right now that don't have the garden beds yet, we do a lot of container gardening. So we've been donated containers from the extension and other businesses. We have all of our kids tend at the center to drink a lot of milk from milk jugs. So there's really great ideas around the kids painting their own milk jugs and then planting plants in those. When the extension comes out, the master gardeners, it's all volunteer. And they get really excited because a lot of them are retired teachers in our organization that come in, and they do really well with teaching the kids all about experiences. So not only our teachers in the classroom are doing activities in small groups and circle time about reading, about gardening or where plants come from and nutrition, but we also get the kids going on field trips and some cooking experiences and tasting parties. And some of these experiences come from the plants that actually in the bottom you can see in these pictures of items we've picked in our gardens. So when the master gardeners come out, they talk a lot about starting, we start planting indoors in the early spring. And so we've got tomato plants that are growing in the early spring. And then as it goes later, we do transplant them outdoors. And then later on, as you can see, we pick our produce, and then the kids get to have tasting parties in the classroom, or we will send them to the kitchen if the harvest is large enough to be able to incorporate them in some of the items for meals or snacks. We do a lot of things around not only about food, but learning about science. Kids learn about taking care of things. They take care of their plants, about watering. They learn about bugs. Bugs are fascinating to kids. Some of our teachers don't appreciate that so much, but the kids with the spiders in the garden, they learn what they're there for, what ladybugs do, that everything has a purpose. We take care of our plants. The kids learn about weeding. We have gardening tools for them that we've purchased and have had donations from another agency has donated gardening tools to our sites for the kids to learn about gardening. And it is amazing that kids really get excited about, using those tools, and they can't wait during the day to get out and water their plants. The kids really take an ownership. The teachers don't even have to ask them. They just want to go out and be out there in the gardens. So the extension agents, when they come out, they partner with the teachers. They go out, and a lot of our staff will even say, and our parents that come in are amazed at how much they learn from sometimes the master gardeners or even each other. So it's been a great networking also for our families to get together and meet each other and not only talk about gardening, but their families. So it's really been, getting everyone involved. And it's kind of become a social activity for us. Most of our families, like I said, work in the ag industry, and a lot of them do come in and they want to work in the garden with their kids or see how they're going too. So we can change the slide. So this resource is really great. I can see where everyone will be able to use it in Head Start, and I like how everything is helpful and comes together. So in our program, it really helps with our procurement piece too. Sometimes a lot of us we grow things right here, but we buy them from a food vendor. And so a lot of our centers have approached like the local produce stands, and a lot of our local produce stands will donate fresh produce, as does our farmers, as does our parents for working out in the fields. So our procurement piece is really big because it counts for in-kind for Head Start. A lot of the kids are really happy when their parents bring in the produce, or that things are grown right at our center that the kids actually get to eat. In the top corner, you can see right there, we have a little girl who they're watering, and they just get really excited about being able to tend to their gardens. So we serve more fresh in-season produce on our menus. We really work on growing your own gardens, and in a lot of our communities, community gardening is really taking off. So a lot of our families live in housing developments. They might not have access to growing a large garden like they used to, but with our extension agency, we've partnered so that a lot of housing developments in some of our counties are able to partner and have a community garden. And not only at our site, their kids are growing food, but actually in where they're living, they're able to grow gardens and having container gardens. Once again, I talk about, children's participation. It's just amazing the things children learn to do by participating. We have found, and our teachers will even attest to this, that if the kids have grown it, have learned about it, they're more apt to tasting it. They're more excited about it. So we've noticed we can teach food safety concepts. There's also concepts that children benefit from gardening. I talk about lesson plans. We do have gardening and a nutrition section. So every day, we're touching on something that has to do with gardening or nutrition. If it's reading stories, I talk a lot about it at Family Style Meal Service at the tables. We use, currently we're working with a curriculum through the CACSP USDA that's the Grow It, Try It, Like It. And all of our sites use that curriculum. And then also the master gardeners that come out have gone through it and have based some of their teaching around that curriculum. We do have a USDA CACFP program, and that also using fresh and local produce on the menus is also something they really encourage, and growing gardens. And some funds can be used from that. You might have to check your local state on that, but some funds can be used to benefit gardening. We can do the next slide. So we have a lot of partnerships that we built, and some of them just kind of, as you go out and talk to people, they kind of just came to us. So right here in this picture here, we have our master gardeners. There were 2 of them. That was the day we were doing our big dream garden with Lowe's. These 2 have been a big part of coming out and doing a lot of education in our sites with the children and families. They put a sign in our gardens that it's supported by a master gardener. They don't do the gardening for us. They just They just provide education, not only to our staff and the children, but also to parents. Parents have been a big partnership. Anytime we talk about gardening, they're right there for donations, soil, just being a part of helping out in a garden at the center. Our key other partnerships are some of our local growers and farmers. They've been really instrumental in just donating produce. When, once they know it's, a lot of times anytime you talk about, it's children and learning, or if it's not donated, sometimes it's at a discounted price. We've tapped into some local nurseries. We have a lot of nurseries in the area that have plants that, aren't quite selling, aren't quite the top grade of plant to sell, but they still are a plant. So a lot of local nurseries have donated the plants, and we've been able to nurse them back to health and use them in our gardens. Some of our community agencies, we've had some other community agencies in each of our communities that have stepped up and want to help out when we've approached them, maybe not at this time, but in this time, they will come up and ask, do you still need soil, or do you need any gardening utensils for your kids? We also tapped into our local schools' FFA programs. A lot of the kids have plant sales in the spring, and not all those plants will sell. Some of them are a little straggly and sad, but a lot of those plants actually, from the care of our children and teachers, and they blossom into a beautiful plant that we can benefit from. So we tapped into that. And then also a lot of your big retail stores also have grants that are available. Not only Lowe's has grants, but we found the Home Depot has a grant. Kohl's has some grants, small grants available. So we've also tapped into some small local hardware stores just to help us out. And the response has been really amazing for us. And it's opened other doors for other community agencies to partner or want to do things with us also. Some of the things that we asked the places for donations were soil, containers. The WSU Extension had a program that Home Depot and Lowe's donated outdated seeds. So the seeds are best the first year they are in the store, but it doesn't mean that the following year, or before the expiration, that they're not still good. They just may not germinate as well. So we've got a lot of outdated seeds that were donated to us that we were able to plant or have our parents would benefit from growing some gardens in their homes. And the kids get really excited about this from doing it at the center. Then they have a garden in their own home that they're very proud of too.
I'm going to jump in for 1 second, Tina. I want to acknowledge that we're
Mhm.
at the hour. If folks on the line can hang on for about 5 more minutes, we're going to wrap up and try to answer a few questions. If you're not able to stay on the line, thank you so much for joining us. This will be available recorded following. We'll follow up with an email with that recording link, and you can tap in to see the end of Tina's presentation as well as some questions to answer. So thank you all for joining. If you do need to leave, and happy Farm to School Month to you. If you're able to stay on the line, please hang out with us for another 5 minutes or so to wrap up the presentation. Go ahead, Tina.
Thank you. So, and also like I had said, we had the master gardeners came in and they had an option for us that even if they could put out the outdated seeds on a display, that our parents could be able to take them home and grow gardens with their children. And like also I had stated, plants that won't or haven't been sold, the FFA, some of your local nurseries or even local grocery stores might give you those little stragglers to take home to the centers for some love. We can flip to the next slide. So some things that we learned was be persistent, don't give up, and just get creative. We have some barriers that we have found with some of our different counties. Each county does their own, has their own set of rules. Sometimes with licensing with child development centers, but we found ways to get creative and get around those. And it's been a lot of fun. And also, like one of the other ladies shared, keeping it simple and having fun. And I think around these gardens, just everybody, it's hard not to have a good time being outside and enjoying and learning with the kids. And just we worked with some key community partners, which for us, it opened some amazing doors. And when you share with them, it's about impacting children and families. Knowing a lot of people can't say no. It's just been an amazing adventure, and we're looking forward to expanding our gardens. So down here we have our children that are doing some gardening, and it's just been great. So I hope you find some things that may help you in your adventure. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tina. Great to see what's happening at Inspire and all the great work that you've done and those really creative community connections that you've been able to take advantage of. I'd love to take just a few minutes for a couple of questions. I know there are things that a lot of people will be interested in. So Abby and Tina, if you could each maybe take about 30 seconds to answer this question. The first question is around procurement. Could you share one where you identify local outlets for procurement, where you identify places to purchase local foods? And two, if you have any food safety standards in place that you go through when purchasing local foods?
To answer your question, this is Abby. We source a lot at the local markets. That's a good way to reach the farmers in and of themselves. And then also, as Tina said, we use the master gardeners as well. They seem to have a lot of great resources. And as far as food safety, I would just say, in our cooking procedures, we make sure to, I'm ServSafe certified, and we use that protocol to approach recipes and things like that.
So this is Tina. We do a lot of the same things that Abby just stated. We do have, like she said, all of our recipes, we make sure we wash things, everything's handled in a safe manner. And then we also make sure that in procurement standards, we do have a lot of partnerships, a lot of donations come in. It's sometimes that we have our local centers, because there's 28 of us around the state, but some of them will sometimes maybe use some petty cash, which is designated for items to be able to produce items that we're able to purchase locally. A lot of it, though, for us has been donated. And then on our USDA paperwork, we just mark things that have been donated to us, like the watermelon example I gave you. A lot of those we mark on our USDA paperwork that those were a donation for in-kind.
Great, thanks. And I'll also mention to the audience, if you're interested in learning more about identifying some of those local procurement options, how to go forward with local procurement, and some of the food safety protocols that you have options to identify. We do have great resources in our resource database. You can look for Farm to Early Care and Education and select specifically for procurement and identify some of those resources. Our next question is around gardening. Who is responsible for maintaining the gardens throughout the year? I know your early Head Start programs are in session through 12 months out of the year, but who maintains those gardens when Head Start sessions are not in session?
Okay, so the great thing about Inspire is we have our state Head Start program that mimics Head Start, is called ECAP, and those children are with us from October to June. And we have a migrant Head Start program that starts sometimes in April and go to November. So we're really fortunate that our sites are pretty much year-round. So some of the kids that may plant things, they'll get to pick some of them, and then sometimes they benefit from the previous kids. So we're really lucky that we're able to maintain them year-round.
Tina's right. She is very fortunate to have year-round access like that, because that's a challenge for us, actually, and we try to get master gardeners involved, or one of our Head Start locations also includes a senior center, or Center for Healthy Aging, it's called. And so we try to get volunteers from our senior community to help take care of the classrooms throughout the summer too. But it's really up to myself and the teachers to just jump in and do it in the months that the school is not in session.
Great. Sounds like a lot of those community partnerships can be really vital there. And one last question. Tina and Abby, if you could recommend one first step to help programs get started with Farm to Head Start, what would your one recommendation be?
Start small. I would start small, even if it's just being in the classroom doing some things around talking about where plants come from, food comes from, hands-on nutrition activities, and maybe doing some container gardening, leading it into some container gardening for the children. And then, I mean, don't stop there.
Great. How about you, Abby?
I completely agree. Start small, and just even if it's the teacher passing a farm stand that happens to have really great apples, make a topic the apple that day, and just let the kids explore it and taste it and have fun with it.
Great suggestions. And for more information on and really great ways to get started, especially during National Farm to School Month, please take a look at our website, farmtoschool.org. We do have a great early care and education and resource database to identify some of those small ways to get started. And many of those can be identified in our new Head Start resource as well. So thanks everyone for joining us. A big thanks to our panelists today for sharing their work and their great successes and inspiration. And please look forward to the follow-up email with additional resources and a link to register for our next webinar in January. So thanks everyone for being here, and happy National Farm to School Month to you.
Thank you.